This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.
Hello, good evening and welcome to another episode of the Wednesday Week. My name's Dan Fudge and tonight we're going to be talking about Ipswich banners and tennis balls. As Sheffield Wednesday fall to their fifth defeat in 6, still in search of their first win of the season, there is more unrest amongst the fan base, with a fan-funded banner being defaced and then torn down, and plans of a tennis ball protest happening tomorrow night against Middlesbrough. The fans are starting to revolt. Do you think the chairman will listen and change his ways? Or do you think that and what do you think about our league survival hopes? Join me, Charlie, Stevie, and hopefully Blair after his computer's updated itself, and we'll try and make sense of it all. Now, Charlie, how was your weekend? All right, yeah?
Oh, yeah, it was all right. Yeah, it was great. Just really fun and just not at all soul-destroying. Yeah.
Did you see much of the game then? Did you...
Too much, about 90 odd minutes too much, I think. I'd been quite happy to have turned it off at about the 40th minute, I think. So
what about your preconceptions before the game? I mean, Ipswich are, to coin a phrase of my father's, going great guns. And like you think, well, if we managed to steal a point off them, that wouldn't have been because they solidified well in terms of getting out of League One. They really bolstered their numbers quite well and then did again in the summer. Would you have expected a draw? Could you see one coming? Would we be able to even snatch it and win it beforehand?
I think based on how I'd seen us at Leeds, I thought there's not as much pressure on it in terms of like the rivalry, but there is a little bit of a rivalry there just from like the end of last season, like a little bit, like that little bit of
needle in
they
there.
they were our rivals at one point, kind of pushing to get into the top 2. So I felt like the pressure may be on and potentially we might step up our game. I didn't think we'd win it. I just hoped that we wouldn't lose it. But I was
neither of those things happened.
No. That's what they say about dreaming and wishing. I should have known better. It was my fault.
Exactly right. What about you, Stevie? I mean, what were your preconceptions before the game? Did you feel like it was something that we could take something from?
No. To be honest with you, it's just, do you know what? We're just in such a state of flux at the moment where everything's so undetermined and we don't know. Well, I say undetermined, it's actually the opposite of that. We're shit. We're going to be shit every week. And we're just in for abject disappointment at the moment, aren't we? I went to Leeds. I thought that was a reasonable performance, all things being said. And going into Saturday, I was kind of, I had the worry and the nerve and the cold sweats of seeing a George Hurst notching 3 and standing ears cupped in front of the cop and Luongo coming and dictating things.
You see that, Charlie? That is a man who is used to disappointment in Sheffield Wednesday. Coming in here with your young self. He's been around the block a few times now. You know what I mean?
I had a full head of hair when I started this podcast. But yeah, it was a lot older. Correct. I didn't really know what to make of it. It was one of those where after the defeats and then the point from Leeds, you were hopeful that that might have been a bit of a turning point and we can start to kick on and maybe grab a point, put in a performance that would be a bit of a kickstart for going on a little bit of a run that starts to pull yourselves away from the bottom of the table. But it quickly became apparent that wasn't necessarily going to be the case. And I've got major concerns that we're going to get into tonight around sort of situation around team selection, players that are being picked and where they're being asked to play. And we've got some serious problems. We've got major problems at the club at the moment. And, it's not just chairman based, and it's not just manager based. It just feels to be. We've done a 180 in the last 3 months from that euphoria and that positivity of Wembley, and being at the City Hall and everything going in the right direction. And we're sitting there going, it's been absolutely fantastic after all these years of disappointment and frustration and the unknown of our club being a bit of a laughing stock to where we were then. And as I said, it's a bit of a 180 now to go back to the dark days of sort of 2013, 2014, really.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. I mean, let's get into the game. We'll talk about the periphery around it before we get into the game. I mean, Stevie, you brought up team selection to start with. I don't know what formation we're playing. I have no idea. Now, there was a point that Chisco realised halfway through these 6 games that they've had that 4 at the back ain't working. It's not going well, so we switched to 5 at the back. But then we're playing. And that's what Moore did. He did exactly the same thing, right? He had 4 at the back, and then went, "Hang on, we're going to need a bit of help here," and then we used the wing back role a lot more during Moore's successful tenure, and then but then in front of that was, as Gaz Robinson said, his favourite triangle in Moore's, Beyer, and Bannon. Bannon, Volks, and Byers. Yeah, right. So that 3 there. And then we played an attacking midfielder, or what you kids call a number 10 nowadays, and a striker, right? But we seem to have now got this 5-2, maybe 3. I don't know. Help me out.
Make it make sense.
I can't.
Right. If you look at, and I went and had a quick look back, the BBC Sport have got it down as a 5-4-1. And at times it felt like a 5-4-1 in the sense that the 1 was very isolated. And if you look at 5-4-1 as a formation, 1 up front is absolutely uninspiring, especially at home when you're trying to score goals. The setup, I go with my mate, as you well know. We played a bit of football between us, and we kind of looked at each other and went, at 2 o'clock, is it a 4? It looks like it's going to be a 4. Then you look at the setup, it looked like a 3. It's what goes on in front of that back 3 or back 5 that is the absolute, it's a conundrum, because at any one point it was 3 centre halves: Palmer, Iorfa, and Firmino played as centre halves with Delgado on one side and Pato on the other. But then in front of them, it's almost like he plays a 2 and a 2 and then a 1. So Byers and Hendrick this week sat in front of the back line. And then you've got Windass and Gregory effectively playing off Smith. But the distance between Smith and those 2 players at times is so stark. It's effectively a 5-2-2-1 or a 3-4-2-1.
Just say numbers. I have far too hungover to work that out.
It's crazy. And if you've got the players that can go and play it, and those players that are going to go and play it need legs, they need to have legs, pace, trickery. I love Gregory. I think he's absolutely brilliant. But at 35 years old, we've gone from having him playing with his back to goal, which he's done all his life, holding the ball up and bringing others into play, to having him closing fullbacks down and chasing into the channels and so forth. That's not what his strength is. That's not what it's all about. And he's miles off Smith. And then we've got Windass doing the same on the opposite side at times. He'll chase, and then when those 2 go like that and move forwards, we just get passed through, and they just pass the ball out the back for fun on Saturday.
Yeah. I mean, what about you, Charlie? Have you got anything to add about the formation itself? Did you see it in a different way?
No, I mean, there were players on the pitch, and they sure were stood there. Like, the whole way through, I was like, yep, some of them have got our shirt on. Like, that's just how it felt. And it was just like, you can almost forgive it the first couple of games in that he doesn't know who plays well in what position. Now it's too long. It's gone on too long for that kind of argument. And for me, like, you've literally got the 1 up front thing as well. Frustrates me so much, because it really reminds me of back in the days of Monk. We used to moan about this all the time. Is it, unless you have got an absolute bagsman, absolute 20-goal a season striker that you absolutely know that you can guarantee will like blast anything in that comes his way, why the hell are you playing 1 up front? And you saw that with Windass. Windass is literally stood there having a fag, minding his own business, waiting until Hopefully, God forbid, somebody manages to beat first man and cross them into the box. Oh, what's that? That's not worked. Okay, well, let's continue to do the exact same thing week in, week out. And that's ridiculous. Once you've established that something's not working, you absolutely have to change it up. And the only thing you can say in his defence is you can't play a winning team if you haven't won anything. So fair enough. You change your things up. But it's extremely obvious if you're playing people out of position. It's extremely obvious when things are going wrong. So, while you don't have to just spin the wheel and change everything every time, just this constant, like, the fact that no one can work out what the formation is on or off the pitch should be a serious, like, as a football manager, you would expect to have that little bit more awareness of something like that. So the fact that any of us can look at that and go, who is playing where? Like, if the goalie's not got gloves on, I want to know. Do you know what I mean? It's just absolutely mental. And it has gone on too long. I don't think it is early days anymore. I've thrown all my optimism out the window. Just no.
I was going to say, a lot of us said, let's give him at least 10 games, but we're 6 in, and there has been non-improvement. I feel like we did a smash and grab on Leeds. I mean, even if you just look back at the highlights, they battered us. You know what I mean? We were fortunate to come away with a draw there. Even the games where there was flashes of optimism, like Hull City, for example, they still soundly beat us. We don't look like we're getting anything anywhere. And even if we do manage to steal a point from somebody, then I don't feel like, we talk a lot about momentum on shows like this, and I don't feel like it is any momentum. I think that if we did steal a point, we'll come away and go, well, we got away with that one. Let's see if we can do it next week. And it's not.
We're no threat. The best we can aim for at the moment is try not to lose. It really reminds me of the season, like when we were mostly playing behind closed doors. So spent, it's bad enough there's a global pandemic and I was forced to watch that garbage on iFollow like every week. And it was like, oh my God, we got a goal. We got a goal in open play. And it was that kind of, this feels like the vibes again. It's like, I don't know where the goals are going to come from. But I sure as hell know that sooner or later we're going to concede them. And, it's such an unbelievable cliche to say goals win games, but they really do. And we just don't look like we've got a hope in hell of getting anything anywhere. It's dire.
Well, I mean, let's go through some of the points here, Steve. I mean, early doors, Lapido, who scored against us a few times, right? You know what I mean? Missed an absolute sitter. Right, the first real chance of the game, wasn't it? The ball got played across the back of the defence, and Ladapo absolutely fluffed his lines. And then after that, Vasquez pulled out a great save. And then what else have we got? Oh, and then we had an opportunity. A free kick went in, and Smith just bashed out a 50p head into the top end of the West Stand. And you think, is this it? Is this what we've got? Right? I mean, did you see anything that was inspiring?
I did. I genuinely did. I genuinely saw something. And the thing that I saw was from the start of the season, we've had this conversation. I don't know if it was on the pod or off privately, Dan. I wasn't having that goalkeeper. I weren't having him after the first couple of games because he weren't moving. It looked like he had bricks in his feet. He didn't dive or look to save shots. He was outstanding on Saturday. His shot stopping, his movement, his distribution. I thought, and it's not a cliche. It's one of those things where everybody that saw the game, everybody that's seen the highlights knows it would have been an absolute cricket score Saturday if not for the goalkeeper. And I think, if I'd stop taking bets on Player of the Year now, because it's going to be our goalkeeper unless he gets recalled in January, which when Wendy in it.
If I speak, I am in big trouble. You know what I mean? I can't comment on the goalkeeping situation, but I mean there was one after their goal that he did where it was at the second half at the West Stand end, and he kind of saved it with his left hand, didn't he? And I mean, that was literally virtually point blank and absolutely pink. And then big hands as well made it go missing. Like honestly, I think there was 3 big saves he did.
He did that on Saturday, and I have to say, he pulled off another couple like that at Leeds as well. And it's almost like he's now settled in.
He's always busy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. He's getting plenty of practice, isn't he? But in all seriousness, aside from that, what are we looking at? We're clutching. We've talked about the formation. I don't see, and it's your show. Well, I don't see if there's any point in us sort of dissecting and analysing, the highlights of the game from a Wednesday point of view, because there weren't any.
I went on a deep dive to try and find what I could, and I got a 50p head from Smith. That was it.
Yeah,
that's
Smith
all
headed it over. I honestly, we're there with that.
We had a corner. Did we have a corner?
We actually, I could tell you. I can
We
tell
had a
we actually had 7 corners to their 1.
Oh,
What?
Wow.
We had 7 corners and they
We
had
had
1.
7 corners and we didn't muster a shot on goal.
Not a shot on goal. So that's where we are. And positives, if you clutch in, you look at the Southampton game, where I thought Southampton, we allowed them to, but they passed us off the park. We were within 50 odd passes of Ipswich on Saturday, so we closed that metric. We managed to get up to 48% possession, so we closed that metric. I think we won more aerial duels than they did defensively, so we closed another metric there.
We ends up getting like American sports in it, where like really, really niche specific stats. We faced West more than they did. Hooray! It's like, okay, cool.
We'll not even mention that we had more foul throws than they did as well.
Oh Jesus!
We had more foul throws than shots.
We can't use our hands or feet. That's what we've learned. Like, we're shit.
Oh.
The whole body's shit. It's all bad.
The whole body is shit.
The thing with it, sorry Dan, the thing with it is we've talked a little bit about the Ladapo chance that he had, and you look at the goal, and there were 1 or 2 of the saves that he's made. If you go back and look at the highlights, I was there obviously myself, and it was the same threat all the time. And we've talked about the formation. We got torn apart by the ball in between what would be the fullback or the wing back and the central defender every single time. We made them look, I don't know who it was on the left-hand side, it was certainly Burns on the right. We made them look like absolute world beaters, and they didn't get out of third gear because we just didn't have that ability, that awareness, or that leadership in the back line to say, right, that ball's going to be popped over the top. The goal's a great example of it. The ball was popped over the top. If you go back and look at it, Patterson's giving it that one, and all that. He's done all right for us this year, but he's looking one way then the other. Then he's on his arse and turns around and starts running back. There was one a few minutes before that for the Ladapo chance that they turned for Maywell the other way. He got turned inside out with the ball through, in between the middle of them. Every single ball, there's no creativity from the opposition. They do exactly the same thing all the time and rip us apart every time. And that's a problem. If we're not addressing that, there's something wrong.
Well, there's 2 things. I mean, Blair, welcome to the show. You all right, pal? Did you manage to sort out your computing issues, computer man?
I did. Thanks, Microsoft.
Well, I'm glad one of us works in IT as well. Sort out any potential computer issues that we might have.
I turned it off and on again, but it did work.
You took a dose of your own medicine there, did you? Now, I'll tell you what I want to do, Blair. I want to talk about the goal. Now, Stevie mentioned there's a bit where Patterson kind of gets turned out on the far side, and there's a bit where the attacker coming in then gets covered, right? He gets covered by two of our defenders.
I've watched this goal back so many times. I've got no idea how it gets.
The only question I've got is, why did Patterson not trust his defenders and try and go back to the player that had already sent him for a bag of chips? And then why did he not come across and pick up shirts? For me, I thought he was at fault for that goal. He got sent for a hot dog, and then he went to go and chase after the same geezer, and when he should have really picked up the fella that scored, right?
I mean, I'm Patterson's biggest fan, so I mean, you've come to the right geezer for this. But he's, I think, solely blaming him for that one goal after we got absolutely battered and the keeper kept us in it is quite discerning.
No, I mean, everybody's going to have a brain fart. I'm not saying that we lost the game because
it looked to me like he was already blowing out of his arse because we've been battered for, I don't know, what was it, 60 minutes already, whatever it were, and he's just forgot where he was. And then he went screaming at the defenders on the line. Yeah, but then the rest of them didn't help, did they? They all just fell to sleep, and it was just like after all their great work, they scored such a shit goal.
It was a shit goal.
I tell you what, I've written Sunday League 10-year-old goal. That's what I've written. You know, when all the players, Stevie, you've done a bit of kids football with your young'uns, and you watch kids just flock after the ball, flocking, constant flocking. That's what that goal was like.
Straight flocking.
Kids, straight up flocking after the ball. Where's the ball? Oh, I'm going to run that way. And then I'm going to run this way. And that's kind of what it was.
Can you do that again for YouTube?
Right, this is like, do you know where I've got that from? It's like one of those puppet shows, you know, like Sesame Street, where they go, yeah.
That's exactly what it looks like.
Yeah. I remember I watched a video the other day. I don't know why, but I really found that funny. I'll shoehorn that in somewhere. And then, you know, because Sheffield Wednesday found it quite easy, must admit.
Yeah.
It's hilarious how bad we are at the moment. Like, we signed 12 players. He didn't even play any of them. And they're all his signings because it's
and they're all average as shit. They're all pish. They're all like they're in a signing that's come in where I'm like,
so why is he signing him?
Like, I just feel like
right.
he's just
Sorry. Stop. Blair's just said, why is he signing them? They're all shit. Everybody in this room now will be able to talk about Blair and the shit that he's been spouting in our WhatsApp group about. But we've signed him from PSG, and we've signed him from Monaco, and we've signed him from AC Milan. Look at these players. They've got to be good because they used to play with Messi and blah, blah, blah.
Did you just say the keeper's going to get player of the season?
Yeah.
About 5 minutes ago. Where's he from?
Yeah.
AC Milan.
AC Milan. But you're the one that's sitting here now going, they're all shit. It's like
I didn't say the new signs of shit. Every time I see Masaba not starting, I just think, what's this geezer doing? Because we've got nothing up front. At least a basic
he's not a striker. He's not a striker.
He's a winger. He's signed.
That's fine. We're not playing with wingers. Wingers.
Again, this is another thing for the manager needs to go because he signs 12 players to fit a 4-2-3-1.
Don't get ahead. That's to come.
He signs all these players to play a 4-2-3-1.
So Blair, when we start talking about when the manager needs, when we talk about what's coming up, are you planting your flag now? Is that what you're doing here?
Well, he's done the cardinal sin of all pre-season doing a 4-2-3-1, signing players to fit that formation. We're all getting excited about playing the wingers and playing attacking football. And he's played 4 different formations in 6 games.
Yeah.
He's playing the Mike Bassett Christmas tree at the moment, isn't he?
But we don't know. I mean, that was the bit where you were restarting. We don't know. The jury's out on what formation we're playing. So we don't know what's going on there. But listen, let's move on. Let's get off this game because towards the end, I think there was one, Charlie, where was it for me? Well, we got absolutely dispossessed, and then another great save by Vasquez.
Bernard.
Was it my boy? Was it Deschamps?
Deschamps, big dish. George Hurston him, didn't he? Just shrugged him off.
Yep. Yeah, that was. I might take the flag down. But then again, I was gonna get a Spanish one, but then I think that'll probably be a waste of time as well. Jesus. What nationality is Vasquez? I might get one of them. I like him. He's a good signing. Colombian. I'll get a Colombian flag there because I do a lot of other podcasts, and the one that's got quite a big reach in terms of the other side of the world. More people talk about the fact why is the man from Rotherham got a Jamaican flag behind him. I can't field the Amazon story anymore. Yeah, it needs to go. Stoner vibes, yeah. 420, old tight kids. Right then, so let's move on. So listen, the game started, Stevie, and Twitter user, and I've written this down, Nath SWFC Moss, decided he was going to take matters into his own hands and deface the Depon Chansiri banner. Now, as far as I can find, I believe the Wednesday Sing were the people that paid for the banner. I don't know. That's unverified. I don't want to be spouting that I could be in the know when I'm not. But we put up that listen. DC came in, spent all his money. We've shit the bed for the last 5 years. I understand that. That's what's happened. Now, in terms of the fan uprising, let's get into it. But let's start with the banner. And now this is going to sound mental, but I feel that us whinging on Twitter, us trying to argue with him at the notorious fans forum and things like that, I think this, because it's such a vanity project, I think he will hear this more. What do you reckon? Given the person he is.
Yeah, I take your point. It won't sit well with him, will it? Because, as you said, it's a little bit of a vanity project. Will it have an impact? Will it resonate with him more than other things? If it does, I don't think we'll see it. I don't think we'll hear it. I think we'll get. I'm fairly certain we'll get another statement of some description that just sort of not pacifies, but kind of deflects from the fact, and he'll end up talking about. He'll make excuses and he'll find another way of deflecting it, and we'll start looking at other aspects. He'll go back to talking about shirts. He'll go back to talking about keeping the club sustainable. He'll talk about
Harry
all
Bannon
of that.
and Ben Hennigan.
I have to say, and this is the thing, I'm struggling to sort of articulate what's going to happen next. But what I will say, we've said it before as well, and I'm probably jumping forwards a little bit, so we might need to backtrack. But we as a fan base need to be careful for what we ask for. And, I think the whole protest as an overarching sort of issue, the protest, I understand why people are wanting to do it, and I understand what happened on Saturday. I get all of that. The problem is, let's say, for example, he goes, right, this is an absolute offence to my pride. I'm a proud man. It goes against my cultural beliefs. Blah 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 blah. I'm walking away. Let's say he did that Wednesday. What happens on Thursday?
He owns that stadium. He owns that stadium, right? His company owns that stadium, right? So if he did go, he would have to look for somebody who's got no regard for money, like none at all, no regard for business, and all of a sudden we'll have another nutcase in charge that'll just start flinging money out everywhere. I must admit, I did earlier this week look at Everton with a bit of green-eyed monster, because Mashiri went, sod this, found somebody, and that's him done. See you later.
Yeah. And the people they've got are mental. The 777 group.
Right, yeah. Good. Who are the 777 group? Now, like we've discussed on this show 1,000 times before, I want DC to change. I want him to realise what part of the world he's managing a club in. I want him to understand his means, and I want him to understand the rules, and I want him to have a bit more connection. Because what we are right now, and we actually are, but fans don't like hearing it, we are customers. And we are customers, and I'll do the capitalism speech again if you want, but we don't need to. But we are customers. There is a demand, ergo the prices go up. And the only way we're gonna get his club back or send a message is just not spending money. However, on the other hand, we are a very loyal fan base, and we should be. Charlie, what's your take on it?
I agree with Stevie. He holds our club like that. And I think, at the risk of being a bit dramatic, it's not just that it's a vanity project as well. He is very petulant. Like
it's childish in some ways.
He's childish. It's absolute radio silence throughout almost all of the points deduction. So we got a lot of official stuff, absolutely nothing. First thing he comes out and says is like, really sorry, we got relegated. Then you hear nothing else for ages. Then he's on an open top bus for 2 years. Then he's on open top bus tour. The next two things that come out of his mouth is Darren Moore said this, Darren Moore said that. What a load of bollocks. That's bollocks anyway. It's even more bollocks at the backdrop. Everything that's being said, everything that's come out, and he's like, can I just make myself clear on the Darren Moore situation? No, you fucking can't, because actually we don't care. We don't care anyway. We definitely don't care now. We've got bigger fish to fry. It's so tone deaf. That banner would annoy more than the tennis balls, and I think that's the bloody problem. Is we're gonna have to work with him unless an amazing viable option comes in who for some reason hasn't heard of us prior to this point, because it's not exactly like the Chancellor thing has been absolutely amazing up to this point. There's been loads of people for the last God knows how many years talking about someone coming and buying us. The fact that no one has done that yet suggests that chances are there probably aren't other options out there. The best we can hope for is appealing to his better nature. That's what my head's saying. What my heart's saying is tennis balls. I don't know, not tennis balls, but I can totally see it. I feel like saying just screw it. No, it's absolutely rising up against it, making it impossible for him to ignore us. But he, like you say, it is a business. He's not our boss. We're not his we don't need to go to HR about it. He owns us. He owns the lot. If you know, if we don't like it, and if he does take his bat and ball home, what then? Like, where does that
screwed.
leave us?
We are
We're literally
absolutely
We
screwed.
are
He
up
pumps
diarrhea
in
drive.
so much money. He pumps
Yeah,
in
he
so
does.
much money.
Now-
People just don't realise because it's
He
not
just
like
needs to. He needs to he needs to recognize that he is not like he's not football minded. He's not even necessarily business minded, but he certainly is not. He's not a director of football. He does not.
No,
He clearly has never had that. And if he's always going to put, this is what, like, I've been catching up on Welcome to Wrexham. This is what I've got, like, I'm getting in my head about this. You absolutely do need someone signing the checks, but the same people signing the checks should not be the same people interviewing the managers.
No.
Or apparently, potentially turning up in dressing rooms, bollocking players, like whether or not that's true or not.
Or
Even if there's
taking a
picture-
phone call, speaking to a potential manager candidate, taking a phone
Yeah.
call from your son and passing the phone to the potential manager candidate to talk to
absolutely
his son.
insane. Even if a fraction of what we hear about these things is true,
Mhm.
like, and then he because he does these things, he opens himself up to further criticism. Then no one has any faith. You know, no one is interested. The prices go up, and because we're already cross now, we're furious. And at the moment, like, he needs to recognize that in order to get that faith back, in order for us to be as hyped as we were with like promotion and results and things, he needs to hold his hands up and go, I'm not going anywhere, but I am going to do the right thing by the club. And I think that's what we should be asking for more, rather than him out, him back. Like,
Yes.
put
Yeah.
someone else in place to do
Put
that.
somebody in that knows what they're doing. Let's do that.
And they can just take all the glory then. Just do what Ryan
Innit?
Reynolds does. And just goes, I've spent the money.
Yeah.
I'm in.
That's
Everyone
it,
loves
exactly.
you. Everyone loves
Exactly.
you. You spend the
You
money.
can be the hero without being the face. You know what I mean? They've got Mac and Deadpool there going, I don't know what I'm doing. And Phil Parker's is in charge, whoever the bloody hell it is. And like Charlie there has just mentioned she sat watching Welcome to Wrexham. I must admit I've not watched a minute of it because if I'm honest, I couldn't give two shiny shits about Wrexham. But you know, I bet it's quite an entertaining program because the two guys that have bought the club are actually quite fun, right? So anyway, listen, let me drop some truth bombs on you. And I feel like we need to accept this, not as just Sheffield Wednesday fans. I feel like we need to accept this as football fans in general, right? We have the most competitive football pyramid in the world, right? Anybody can win. Anybody can get out of one league. We've now got Luton Town playing Premier League football, right? But we have a top 6 or 7 clubs that could win the Premier League, that could challenge in the European competitions and things like that. Now, in terms of the viability of the football pyramid outside of our country, no one gives a shit. No one cares. No one gives a shit about Walsall, Peterborough. No one gives a shit about Sheffield Wednesday. They don't care. They don't care, which is why when it came to the Super League, for example, they needed those 7 clubs that they picked, those 6 clubs that volunteered to play in that league, because it gave it credence. It gave it a bit of edge. Because if you look at every other European league across the country, it's just a 2-horse race, apart with the exception of France, where it's a 1-horse race. And, you know, Pochettino managed to finish second in a 1-horse race. But, you know, they needed us. And I'm afraid that there will be a European Super League. There will be just those top 6. And the league that we're in and the leagues below and the bottom half of the Premier League will be this breakaway, underfunded, bullshit kind of underground level of football, because I'm afraid that the youth of today and young kids don't give a shit outside the big clubs. We now have people turning up trying to get their photo took with Ronaldo. The Americans and Messi have all of a sudden got themselves into football. It's all about celebrity stardom and being that person that can release this video and they can get this photo with this person and they want to be the guy that breaks the news. No one wants to be the guy to break your news that Momo Diaby's injured. Do you know what I mean? Nobody wants to do that because the audience isn't there. And I'm afraid that the bottom half of our leagues, outside the bottom half of the Premier League, is going to be obsolete, and there's going to be no money in it. There'll be virtually no coverage in it. But in this country, we are so vociferous at protecting our football league, our football pyramid. We get a sense of entitlement. And I understand where that entitlement comes from, because it's a case of we're fighting to keep this league. And we're fighting, just in terms of Sheffield Wednesday, we're fighting to keep our place in the league, and we've been paying and paying, we've been turning up, we've been doing our bit, and we haven't been rewarded for it. That's why we're so pissed off with life, right? But then you look at the other ones, and then you look at other leagues, like, for example, I mentioned that I was watching the NFL yesterday. That is a competition across a continent. There's 32 teams across a continent. There's no promotion, there's no relegation, and the way that their contracts works, and the fact that any team at the start of the season could win the whole thing by the end of it because it's so open is fascinating to me. And it's something that we don't know. Now, Simon Jordan talks a lot about meritocracy and making sure that there's promotion and relegation and you don't get rewarded for failure. They don't give a shit about that, the kids nowadays. They want to wear a Paris Saint-Germain shirt. They want to wear Inter and AC Milan and Juventus. They want to wear those jerseys. They're not, because for every Real Madrid and Barcelona, there's a Elche and a Getafe. You know what I mean? Like, and that's what the rest of the other football countries are. And if that happened to Sheffield, to bring this full circle, if that came to us, we as a club would not be represented anywhere. We as a city would not be represented. We're not represented in the cricket, really. We're not represented in the big fourth, fifth biggest city in the country, and we're not gonna be represented anywhere because the lack of funding from the government into the area and the poor performance that Sheffield has been subjected to this season. The Super League's coming. Our football pyramid is in trouble. Whether it's the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, we're not going to know it as it stands. And we need to ready ourselves into a position to get it right. And that's where Chansiri wants us to be.
I think it was long, and I think you've spoken really well there, and I largely agree with everything that you've said. The only counter point that I would make is, if all of that comes to pass, is that necessarily a bad thing? Is the Super League for clubs like us a bad thing?
No, in our underground league, our Phoenix League, as it will, which is what will happen. I'm happy for those 6-7 clubs to piss off.
I was all for it during COVID when it got announced. And
the reason with the sorry, Charlie.
No, I was just going to say that the gap's already so big between, clubs like Carry On.
Let them go.
It's
like when someone's right up your ass on the motorway and you just think, sod it, I'll just pull over, let them go. They're not my problem anymore. Yeah. And that's what it is with those clubs. Go on, no one's breaking into that. No one's doing a Leicester anymore.
The only thing with that again, I'd agree with it. The thing that I kind of want to stay in that lane in front of them and slow them down is the Blair talks about it a lot privately. The parachute payments, it's not a level playing field, all of that, and it's solvable. If somebody goes in and goes, right, these parachute payments aren't working, the clubs that are going down, Sheffield United, if United stay up, I'm not allowed to talk about them on this part. If United stay up this year, that's them made, that's them sorted, because they go down the next year, they've got the parachute. We're still talking about Norwich using parachute payments, spunking money left, right, and centre. We're talking about West Brom, who've been out for 2-3 years. They've got money to go and spend. We're talking about people spending money at our level to compete and get back up, and they've got them. They're being given that money. We haven't got a pot to piss in, and it makes me laugh. And the sad thing is, the irony is, and I've said this before, and we all know it, Chansiri's not poor. He's got money to spend.
He just can't spend because of the archaic rules.
We are not allowed to spend the money because of what we've got. And so to bring it back again, as Dan said, to bring it back full circle to the argument about the banner and the argument about the tennis balls and getting Chansiri out of our club, Chansiri would spend the money. These protests, and I've said this before, these protests are 3-4 years too late. The problem that we've got is that Chansiri overachieved in 2016 by getting to Wembley. We overachieved and got as close as we did to the Premiership at Hull. Yep. That happened. And then the next year we've gone and chased it. And then after that, we've made the playoffs. We finished higher up. We weren't as good, but we finished higher up. We've made it to the Huddersfield. We've spunked it again. That's Carlos. And then we've gone, right, Jordan Rhodes, 10 million. Adam Reach, 5 million. Alman Abdi, 4 million. Watford have had our pants down with Abdi, by the way. And we're going back years. I don't want to be that guy that talks about 7-8 years ago.
We are sweeping up that missed penalty, that Forestieri missed penalty. Yeah. sent our club into an absolute spiral that we didn't know we had no idea what was coming. And I get that, and I completely understand that he's got his hands tied. And if he had the opportunity to spend the money, I believe he would, because it'd be mutually beneficial, right? He'd be able to make the money because we're a Premier League club, and we'd be well happy because we're in the Premier League, right? And he would spend the money to keep us up there, and like I say, mutually beneficial. The issue that we've got is that the smaller decisions that need to be making in order to recover back from that missed penalty that sent in that spiral have made it so much worse. And he's tried to find these ideas as well, which I'm happy for. But Derby County got their ass tickled playing with feathers, didn't he?
Yeah.
With the Rooney thing.
Reading are doing it.
Reading did it. Right, Reading are doing it. There are no new ideas. There's only regurgitated ones, and he keeps trying to find new ideas. And every time he gets the chance to make a decision, he fucks it up. And the issue that we've got is that he's shoehorned himself into every single decision.
This is the thing. The only thing we can do to make money, and we've said it before, is sell players for large amounts of money to Premier League teams.
We got £8 million for Lucas João, and that was mental. I mean, he weren't worth that money at all.
And so we've signed
the Lucas João that we had.
We've signed younger players in the summer because we had the oldest squad in the world last season. And then instead of playing them to try and develop them and trying to get them in the shop window and stuff, we're not even seeing them. So we've changed strategy.
But your model, and Blair, I love you to bits. This model, it's such a fantastic model in the sense that. Yeah, I'm
not using Brentford as an example.
No. What I'm going to say. Let me finish. What I'm going to say there. You're absolutely right. But we've got you mentioned Brentford there. We've signed these players. They're young. That doesn't mean that they're saleable.
We've got players to make them better. Surely you can't just.
But no, you can't. You can't. Right.
Stevie, right?
Yeah, I get that. We've got to play these players to make them better. But my daughter, she's 9.5. She plays. And they're doing the rotations at the minute because they've got such a big squad. We can't suddenly start saying, right, well, you've had 5 minutes on here, so we've now got to start playing you, and you might get a little bit better. What did I say on Saturday? Developmental football. It does me head in. It absolutely does me head in at that level. So there's no way that I want them to stick Masaba and Gassama and Bernard in just to give them a bash, give them a few minutes to see if they get better so we can sell them on. That's ridiculous. We can't do that.
He's not a crap player, is he?
No, but
he's not a £10 million player. He's not a £10 million player.
Listen, let's move on from that, because I feel like we're all pretty much on the same thing. There is a degree of trepidation, and again, I think we'd want our chairman to learn and to be open for feedback. The problem is he's a bit of a child, and I just don't think he's up for it. Now, on that vein, there is the 1867 group that have been trying to organised. They tried to organise black bin liners to be put over the lettering on the north stand. There's the tennis ball protest, and the club have spoken out and said, "Don't be daft, lads. Come on now, because we've just decided to copy an idea that they did it. Was it QPR or Reading or something last week? They did it, and we've gone, oh, there you are. Let's do that." That was quite a unique idea. I hope they got listened to. But for us to straight up make that our thing. Go, yeah, well, that's a good idea. We'll do that. I'm a bit like, come on now. And I think it was James Kay said, who, bear in mind, used to play for the club, right? James used to play at youth level for Sheffield Wednesday. And he said, what if you're like 1-0 up and we've got the momentum and we're pushing forward and have to stop the game to kick a load of tennis balls off the bloody pitch? I mean, what, Charlie, what are your thoughts on it? I don't want to sit here and say it's just a group of shit kickers shit kicking. Because I don't think it is. I feel like it's some passionate fans that want to do something.
Yeah, I do get it. I get the desire to want to do something, and I think it's a little bit like, you can bitch and moan about something, but ultimately you're going to want to change it. But at the same time, you are also entitled to bitch and moan about something that you don't have a solution for. Like, I think global warming's bad, but that you can't then expect me to back that up with a plan about.
Well, what are you going to do about global warming, Charlie? You can't just come in here just slagging off our bloody global warming.
You went to Lanzarote, didn't you, the other week?
God damn it! Coming in here, coming on here, here talking about you. Oh, we're on a plane, but what about the turtles? No, you can't.
Yeah, because if I think Chancery should leave, does that mean that I personally should buy the club? If you've not got money to buy it, then you can't
come in.
sign
You've
up.
got to make it constructive. You can't just come in here telling me we've got to get rid of the chairman when you haven't got the money to back it up. You're not allowed an opinion.
Somehow it's fallen to me after it's somehow become
God
I was
damn it.
next
Yeah,
alphabetically after Chancery's come.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's my turn. Jesus Christ. But I don't know. I mean, there's part of me that's like, maybe Chancery is doing it because he's recently bought a tennis ball company. I don't know, like big brain time, but I don't know what's worse. If we do it and then we get sanctioned and have to play blind closed doors, or 4 tennis balls hit the pitch.
I don't want either to happen. I don't want either of these things.
3 tennis balls and 1 hits a child in the back of the head. It just bobs sadly down onto the pitch. They just look down and carry on playing. I think I would just go into hiding and never tell anyone.
Yeah, that's me done, lads. See you later.
Again. I was like, we've done it.
Here. Fudge, I don't want to be on again. I'm done. See you later.
At least if we did it, if it's going to happen, I almost hope it happens properly and it's a whole big massive thing, and at least people are talking about it, and maybe it sets a conversation. Because the only thing worse than that is just that it's just a few people. Because Twitter's so polarized. You go to matches and you hear people have opinions about certain, certain players or whatever, but then you read on social media that actually loads of people are saying the opposite. So it's hard to know whether the people that are saying these things online, are they actually the people that are going to matches and are actually the people that are going to smuggle tennis balls God knows where and throw tennis balls? I don't know. There's just something about it
that made me wince the way you said that, Charlie. That made me wince.
And they're going to be looking for them. They're going to be looking for people.
Yeah.
How you can't even get a water bottle with a lid on it. How are you going to get tennis balls?
My favorite thing is listen. We're gonna do this super secret thing. I want everybody to know about it, but I want to do it super secret. Let's keep it on the download. So what we're gonna do? We're gonna announce it on the super secret website that nobody knows about. We're gonna on the internet that nobody's aware of, and it's a super secret club we're in.
SWFC. I wonder if the club know which hashtag gets used most commonly.
How did you find out? Who's the mole? Who's the mole?
There's a rat.
We got a rat. We got a rat amongst us.
I agree, right? If there was a Red Bull consortium coming in and saying, right, we'll buy you, and they've got a Charlie Day, Pepe Sylvia sort of spider diagram with every scenario, right? If we don't get promoted on this season, we'll do this. If we'll sell him, we'll do this. And they have everything planned out for the next 10 years. Any scenario happens, they've got a plan for it. And they've got loads of money. Fair play. I'll take it now.
Blair, I want you to recreate that scene. With what is it? What do they call it? Dave Bow playing the bow. Can we talk about the Wednesday, please? I want to talk about the Wednesday.
Pepe Sylvia. There's no Pepe.
I got boxes full of Pepe. I'm going to make you recreate that next.
Do you know what I mean? Yes, I would take a new owner who had that much planning and that much foresight and stuff. Chances are you might end up with Charlie Mevin, who Charlton's just recently got, who's just batshit crazy. The guy from Sunderland Till I Die. So,
oh God, yeah.
I did watch that as well. Do you know why? Because I don't really give a shit about.
I quite like that though, because I'm more about the fans. But
again, couldn't give a shit about people from Sunderland.
I mean, these protests they're not helpful, are they? Do you know what I mean? The team's on its arse.
Right, listen. This is going to be my last point today, actually, and that's a great little segue.
And if he won some games, Fudge, do you think these protests would be happening?
Yes and no. I think there'd still be grumbling, but given the prices that people are paying, and if the results are coming in, to some extent, it would tamper it somewhat. But because of the amount of money, even before we kicked to football, people were unhappy because of the amount of money that we're playing. Go on, Steve. I thought you were putting your hand up.
No. I kind of, it goes back to the point we were making about 5 minutes ago when we were just talking about the timing of it all. The time isn't 2023. The time was 2017, 2018 when we'd overachieved and we've spent and we bloated ourselves to the point where we got to the future we're living the future that we live because we spent the money on Jordan Rhodes, because we spent the money on Alman Abdi, because we speculated to accumulate after we needed to. That's the issue. I worry about the protests. If the protests bring sanctions as well, what are those sanctions going to look like? What's the impact of the sanctions going to be on us in terms of any sort of revenue? Are Sky going to turn around? And I'm not being funny. Sky we are going to get money for Sky, us being on Sky tomorrow. Is Sky going to be interested in watching us form a protest and then say, right, we need to go down to Sheffield Wednesday again in 4 or 5 weeks' time? No. We're not going to be on TV again, so that's revenue gone. We're going to get fined for it, maybe. That's revenue gone, or that's money that we've earned that we've got to spend elsewhere. So what we're doing, we're actually kneecapping ourselves by doing things like this. There's a right way of doing things, and I just don't necessarily think that a public protest is the right way of going about it.
But this is probably going to be the fans' question, sat here listening to you say that. Like, what is the right way? Where is our opportunity for feedback?
The right way of the right way of talking to Dapon Chansiri.
Yes, we don't have that opportunity because I tell you what, right? We've just got this new Labour tool at work, and it's straight up dreadful. It's awful. Anybody out there who uses S4 Cat and Hospitality Labour tool, it's rubbish, right? Now they've changed it, and no one's liked it, and they've asked for feedback, and between my region, someone else's, we've sent 5 pages of feedback, all individual issues. And what we got back is, yeah, but, it's you. Yeah, but this is your fault. Yeah, but. So essentially, I'm being pissed on and getting told it's raining. Like, you know what I mean? And, so essentially what I'm saying is we got given then the illusion of feedback. Oh, yeah, I'm really up the feedback. And then when you send some, they go, thanks for that. Anyway, we're going to big fat do it anyway. And I feel that that's what Chansiri does.
Yeah. Oh,
here's a fans forum. Come and talk to me, lads. Come and have a chat. And we'll go, hey, up, this is fucking rubbish. Well, it's your fault. Let me tell you about Carlton Palmer. And that's what happens.
But people don't ask that question, though, do they? They just ask about transfers.
But I don't want to know how I don't know about anybody else. I'm so switched off with this whole fans forum, supporters engagement, no Ashes on the panel and so forth. I don't know. There's no impact. There's no measurable impact from it all anyway, is there? It's a bitch fest, or it's a whinge. And Chansiri comes out, and the last one that Ash went to, the last one that Ash went to, he was still on the chat at midnight saying, "I'm still here. There's 5 people left. Chansiri's still going." What was actually said in that 4 or 5 hour period where we talked about? Nothing gets said because it's not
illusion of feedback. That's all it was.
Exactly. We need a representative. I'd argue that we probably need a representative, somebody who we do respect. And I'm not saying that there's somebody out there that you could say it's that person, but we need somebody who's articulate, who's got influence, who's able to, is not self-serving, is able to say, right, Chansiri, these are the problems that the supporting fan base have. These are the issues that we see. These are the worries that we've got.
I agree with you.
Address any of these?
I think that, but then what he'll do, he'll go in a 10-minute diatribe talking about this and talking about that. But we need somebody whose dick's not going to shrink in front of him either, because that's what happens and all. I need somebody to go, hang on, Dapon. I didn't ask any of that, what you're telling me about. Yeah. Tell me what you're going to do about these fucking prices.
And also, to a certain extent as well, the protest just gives him ammo. Like, do you remember when he had this whole thing where he was like, "Oh well, you know, loads of people are interested in giving us money for the club, but you guys are being really mean on Twitter." So imagine like anything we say is gonna be like, "Do you remember the tennis balls?" We'll be like, "Oh, why are season tickets $4,000?" Tennis balls. Like that. And even if that's nonsense, it's like when your mum says, "Yeah, but do you remember like 8 years ago when you left the door open and the cat got out?" And you're just like, "Oh right, I guess anything's
I'm 42,
allowed
mother. I'm 42. Let it go.
Let's like move on with your life." And this is
honestly, do you know what, Charlie? I was 6 years old. It was my 6th birthday. We went round my nan's and we got like a picky tea, because that's what they're called, right? Crackers and cheese and that. Aye. And I picked up the beetroot by its lid, and the beetroot fell down, and I've absolutely rinsed my nan's white table. I mean, it still gets talked about to this day. It was 1986, right? And every time now I see my parents and I go to pick something up, there's still a careful and then the fucking beetroot story gets brought up, and I'm like, I'm 42. I can buy a house twice. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
can sire a child. Like I can drive. Leave me alone. But yeah,
And this
and
is why
you're right. That's what it's going to
Transirity
be.
won't get out of our club because he's
Because
heard
I
the
dropped
Beetroot
Beetroot in
story.
1986. Yeah,
He was
that's
like,
right.
it's funny you should mention it because I've heard one of our fans dropped a load of beetroot all over his son's table.
Can
So
you imagine?
thanks, Dan.
Can you imagine that? Right, listen, Dave Bonner, what are you going to tell me about getting the new owner for this club? Well, in 1986, this knobhead picked up the beetroot and the piccalilli, shit everywhere. Ergo, push come to shove, XYZ. No. But I'll tell you this for free before I move on. That Shaw bloke with the painted on beard, not the answer. Anyway, listen, I need to move on because I've got two things. Now, Blair, you stitched Simon up so you can talk about this. Blair and Simon wanted to swap tonight. So what Simon did was send me some stats on shots and shots on target. And it's grim reading. So now he's got lovely... he's an engineer, and he's got lovely engineer handwriting. It's all in block capitals. So he's gone with Southampton 8 shots, 1 on target. Hull 5 shots, 2 on target. Not a bad haul. Preston 8 shots, 3 on target. Cardiff 12 shots, 4 on target. Leeds 11, 5 on target. Ipswich 6 and a big fat goose egg. So that's 50 shots and only 15 on target. And then he's written Ashley Fletcher touched the ball 9 times in 50 minutes, and I feel like next week
you don't get on pitch, so
Holly and Simon are going to have a tear up about Ashley Fletcher at some point. I can see it coming, but I mean we do have. I needed to bring those up because Simon's done the homework on it, but we are pretty toothless, aren't we, Blair?
Yeah, absolutely. It's horrendous up front, and he's just like, I mean, you know, I'm the biggest Michael Smith guy in the biz today.
Well, of course you are.
And then after the Leeds game, I mean, I was in Stevie's car. Michael Smith's just not good enough for the championship. That's just like, it's just like, he's a shell of the bloke he was last season. Like He was so slow, like so off, like a yard off it, just completely, just like anonymous.
Is it a service issue? I mean, bear in mind, he had one opportunity and fluffed his lines and did a 50p head into the top half of the away fans. But is the ball coming in as much as it used to?
These big centre forwards, you can always say it's a service issue, can't you? With all of them, like, we said it's about Jordan Rhodes, and we've done about service with Jordan Rhodes, but it turns out
Jordan Rhodes just has lost what he had.
But he doesn't help, and you don't play wingers for a big striker who thrives off service. Do you know what I mean? So at least if you get him some service, we could say, well, he is just shit. But, we don't know what we're playing, do we? He's got Lee Gregory playing Lee Gregory coming out saying he's got me to play a new position. I've always had my back to the goal, but now I'm facing the goal. So I'm learning on the job, basically. He's 35 years old. All right, he's got some more miles in the legs, less miles in the legs than other 35-year-olds because he get into the professional game late. But still, it's quite late on to start learning a new position. Do you know what I mean?
Old dog, new tricks. I tell you what, listen, that was like a talk sport segment where I just asked a random question that Simon Jordan rambled on for 10 minutes ago. And that was what you're talking about going forward, sponsored by Tesco's. Other shops are available.
Outstanding.
Anyway, let's move on. Right, so tomorrow night in front of the Sky cameras, let's hope Barry Bannon's playing because he has a stormer in front of the cameras, but sometimes we do. Again, it's that Gennaro Gattuso meme. Sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit.
El Sakiko, is it?
Jake Punkchef went with El Crapico or El Sacchio, which the irony that we could cost a manager his job is absolutely insane to me. But Steve,
we need to beat Borough to say sack Michael Carrick and re-employ Michael Carrick. That's what we need to do.
So we're going to get Michael Carrick on the back of beating Borough. Right, clever. I see your plan there. Steve, what do you reckon, Borough?
I hate when you come to me first. I think I don't know. I genuinely don't know what's going to happen tomorrow night. I think it's obviously going to go one or two ways. It's either going to be the same old story of us turning up, not being able to put a formation out there, not being able to see what we're doing, not being able to see the plan, playing one up top, hoping that the square pegs in round holes can do a job for us. My worry is if they do, then he's going to come out and say, "Oh yeah, we're finally on that upward trajectory," and I don't think that's the case. I honestly can't call tomorrow night. I'd take a point tomorrow because it'd mean that we're still not bottom of the league, but I just think it's papering over the cracks, isn't it? I think the next couple of games, obviously we've got them tomorrow, and I think Swansea are one above us, aren't they, on Saturday? If we could take 6 points, then that's fantastic. But it's not going to happen, is it?
If we take 6 points, I'm going to go swimming in that sea across the road. Honestly, you can jot that down now. If we beat them on Tuesday and beat them on Saturday, I'm getting literally in the sea.
So yeah, I'm not optimistic. I'm worried. I'd like to think that we'll have some
like
sort of
21
performance.
shots on Saturday or something.
I'd heard they've had 21 shots on target. I've heard that performances aren't as bad as the results are stating. I don't know whether or not that's true, but yeah, I can't call it. I don't know.
Score draw or no score draw? Because I
feel kind of
0-0.
I feel kind of apathetic towards it all, and that's the really depressing thing.
I'm like, honestly, it's difficult to be on a show like this and give a toss. Like if I didn't do this, I'd literally just go, fuck it, I've got better things to spend my money on for a bit, and then creep back into it as time goes on because I'll miss it.
Yeah.
But at the minute, I'm just like,
I'm at the minute, like you just said there, I'm at a point now where I've gone from personally being really excited about going and watching Sheffield Wednesday play football to it's not a chore, but the reasons that I go have changed, and the reasons that I go are because of me and Molly. So Saturdays are great. Match days on a Saturday are brilliant. Tomorrow night it's a chore because I've got to tell the missus that I'm taking my daughter on a school night for a game that kicks off at 8:00. That I'm not going to get home till 11. Anybody that knows Louise knows that her head will start melting if Molly's not in bed by 10:00. So I've got that battle to have when I get in tomorrow. So it's
and she'll come back and Molly will be a grumpy cowbag all day on Wednesday at school as well.
Yeah, and I'm not here Wednesday because I'm working. Then I've got my meetings after school. So by the time I get in Wednesday night, it'll be bedtime. So
that's some high quality thought process there. What about you, Charlie? Do you reckon we'll sting them?
Nah, I think we'll get battered. I think I
7-0.
We'll get 7-0. 7-0, and we'll score one, but it'll be a tennis ball it back at net, so it won't count. They'll not let us have it. I think
like when that beach ball came onto the pitch at Liverpool.
Do you remember that pigeon flew past, and it was like the closest we got to putting a frigging shot in? It was like, oh my god, pigeons beat first, man. And that cat came that time. That was nice. What a season. But yeah, I feel the same. Like, I do feel apathetic towards it. Like, it's very weird to have a hobby that makes you sad. Like, if Zumba made me cry, I wouldn't go to Zumba. Like, I don't get it. Like, I don't understand why I put myself through it.
Charlie, you're witnessing mine. You know what I mean? You're seeing it right now. I'm trying to be upbeat. I'm trying to get myself in a character and all this. And I'm like, oh, God, I just want to wrap up on my duvet, on settee.
And that's so much worse than being sad is feeling nothing. Like, after Forest Green, I literally wanted to just dig a nice big hole and just lay in it and pretend football didn't exist. But now I'm like, okay, we're going to get bad on Sky. Sanctioned, are we? Oh, no. Lifetime ban. Don't throw me with a good time. Sounds great. Cancel it.
Wrexham next season. Free.
I tell you what, best way of explaining that, Charlie, right? So, that Peterborough game, we're on the pitch having the best time. We're at Wembley. Blair on both occasions got absolutely shit-faced. We had a great time, right? Great time. And I thought, right, I'm going to get a season ticket. I live on the South Coast, right? I'm going to get a season ticket again. And first couple of games, I was so excited, especially because, I've spent so many years in Southampton. So the first game of the season is like the damn Fudge derby in my head, right? They're doing it in my honour. You know what I mean? I'm annoyed that I wasn't on, Saints TV or whatever the fuck it was. They were like, hey, do you remember that Fudge kid? Let's get him on. And then tomorrow, I could easily go. I could phone it in at work, toss it off, get on the train, come up. I can't be arsed. No. It's so long to go. There's going to be coverage of it. And I'm hungover to shit. Sure. And sat here thinking about it. I'm like, fuck all that. I just.
Do you know how delusional?
It's ruined it.
Do you know how delusional I was off that Wembley high? Is I went on Look North And I said, do you know what? Like before Wembley, I'd have settled for like mid-table, mate. But you know what? Top six. We haven't got 6 points. I'm not even going to get 6 points this season. I literally went on
I was
television.
stood next to you.
I was so cracked off my head. I'm like, post-football, anything can happen. Dreams really do come true. Like Breakfast Club, Punch in the Sky. I was like, top six. How mental is that? If anyone finds that clip, they're going to make like a little gif of it, and they're just going to.
I was going to say, can you send
me that for the rest of my life?
Send me the clip, and I'm going to splice it to that what you've just said then to that one.
They asked Chansiri the same question after Wembley, and he was on the high, and he said the playoffs as well. So
this is why I'm next in line, because I'm as delusional as him. I'm as delusional as him. I've got as much football experience as him.
Just a lot less money.
Wow. All right, Blair, wrap it up for me then. What do you think about Borough tomorrow night?
I'm looking forward to it because I just love watching football. So I'm looking forward to that aspect of getting out of the house. And
Stevie, the innocence of youth here. Look at him. Oh, he'll learn. I have to have a woman in
21, but I'm 30.
I have to have a woman inject my forehead to stop making the affectionate Sheffield Wednesday look as bad as what they did when I was 18. You know what I mean? So come on now.
You know, I'm having a big moan. I think what's going to happen is he's going to play the same players what we know aren't good enough for the Championship in a new formation. It might be a 6-2-1. I don't know. He might just make something up on the fly. Cisco's going to have a new pair of trainers on. That's a cert. Like, he's not going to play any attacking like any pace at all. So we're going to get the ball to like the final third, and it's just going to like slow down because no one's got any pace. We've got no every team's going to know what we're going to do. So we're going to lose about 2-0. And Cisco will probably still have a job because Chansiri likes to give his men time. He even give Joss a year. The only one he didn't give the time was Tony Pulis, and that's because Pulis said he wants to walk. That had nothing to do with actually getting sacked. It was like I'd
take Tony Pulis now. He might stop the goals going in. But anyway, that's for another show. Listen, thanks a lot for joining us tonight. Does anybody have any other business before I crack on and end this shit show? I've got paracetamols to take. Thanks a lot for joining us. If you've got this far, you're my new hero. See you later.
This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.